So what is digital transformation? It's a buzzword, we use it all the time, and I actually don't like the concept much, because if you think about it, transformation just describes a process, whereas we need to be focused on the outcome. So what is digital transformation? Well, in my opinion, it is becoming a better version of ourselves. We think that in 2019 alone, it's something like $1.2 trillion that's being spent on digital transformation, absorbing something like 40% of global IT budgets. Of course, it's not just the customer experience, it's everywhere that's trying to transform into a better version of themselves. And it's really a new, completely new paradigm for CX delivery that's emerging, which is you should automate wherever possible, and then you should apply the human touch whenever the human touch makes a difference. But if there's something routine where actually the human makes no difference, adds no value, that's a process that needs to be automated. It is actually irritating as a customer when you have to connect with a human, when you feel the process ought to have been automated. A trend that we're seeing as very strong right now is customer journey mapping, and more precisely, customer journey re-engineering. So companies are realizing that obviously they've been doing omni-channel for a while, maybe they've been doing multi-channel, and they probably have a lot of journeys that are supposed to lead to the same outcome. They kind of have the same purpose, but they're misaligned. The good example is a mortgage lender where you can start your mortgage application in branch or online or via the phone or maybe even via an app, but the processes are not aligned. They don't take the same time. There are different pain points, and so companies are realizing that they have to align their journeys, and they have to conceive of journeys as cross-channel journeys. Data needs to transfer across channels seamlessly without the need for expensive integration, without the need for the customers to have to re-explain everything, or God forbid, resubmit information, because they will just not accept that. Real-time insight is a big deal. So traditionally in Europe, we've thought of customer insight as looking at the past. It was kind of a tick box exercise where we'd do our VOC surveys, and we'd have a little team working on that. They'd write a report which would come out, and the report would say, well, the customer experience wasn't too bad last month. But what is the point of that? When you're just describing the past, what you actually want to be doing, and this is very difficult, but what you actually want to be doing is informing the customer experience as it is being delivered. So if I wanted to be theatrical, I could say big data is dead, long live small data, because what we have to get used to is that single data points or single data sets are valuable insight that we need to deliver to the front line as the customer experience is being delivered. So in real time, or as close to real time as we can manage. This is an important trend in Europe right now. Pain points matter more than anything else in Europe. And I believe that removing pain points, or as I prefer to say, removing friction, is actually the most efficient, the most effective CX initiative that you can take. And this is all about removing the instances where there's a question, removing anxiety. We find that although behavior is driven by convenience and by context, there's also something about choosing a channel based on the level of anxiety that a person has. And it seems to be that the more anxious a customer is, the more the customer will gravitate towards the old-fashioned voice channel. Again, you're anxious, you need a human being, you need the human empathy, you need to feel that you are being helped. So if you can remove the pain points, if you can remove the friction, again, this is part of your homework, you've not started throwing technology at it yet. If you can remove the friction, you will remove a lot of the anxiety as well. And the best experience is always a contact that doesn't need to happen at all because there was never a problem. It was solved automatically, or the customer was able to self-serve. That is always the best experience. So pain point avoidance is becoming a design principle in Europe, and I think that's a very, very good thing. We're also seeing that the traditional performance indicators in contact centers are no longer fit for purpose. You know, we have a lot of clients who have agents with perfect scores. So, you know, whatever KPIs you use, agents score perfectly, everything is great, but the customer still comes away with a bad experience because you're actually not measuring the experience perceived by the customer. What you're measuring is your own process. You're measuring your own organization. So you need to make your KPIs far more customer-centric, and it's incredibly difficult to achieve. But it really does mean that we need to capture the very diverse value add that the human agents provide, and then we need to score them on that. And I can't remember what my next slide is, so this will be interesting. Okay, so it talks about how the number of calls handled is actually increasing, and the average talk time is also increasing. Does everyone see that too? Because it's kind of counterintuitive. You'd expect volumes to come down, but they're not. And we think it is not because agents are all of a sudden incompetent and they take longer to deal with issues. It's simply because the routine issues are no longer being dealt with by agents. So when they do speak to customers, it's because of high involvement purchases or very, very emotional situations. So agents have to be supported. It seems to us that in Europe, motivation is more important than enforcement, so that genuinely European companies are doing a lot to motivate, to empower their employees, to mitigate problems, and the old-fashioned thinking of writing policies that you would then enforce is, it's no longer so prevalent. And I think that's a really, really good thing. A lot of traditional metrics in CX delivery will completely conceal pain points. There's a breakdown, but we don't know where the breakdown is, and we don't know why, because we're not measuring the right things. And we think that genuinely employers in Europe are trying to improve the well-being of not just their agents, but everyone who works for them, so that they will deliver a better experience.
Thank you, Alex.